Hello, welcome to the channel. It's me, Beaky. Good to hear from you guys again. I've been really wanting to do a story for quite a while now. It's called the Skinwalker. My father told me a story once. I'll never forget it, for a few reasons. I think it's the first story he ever told me as a child. It's also the story of how my grandfather died, but that isn't the reason. You hear on TV sometimes or hear someone in public talk about ghosts, aliens, and you think to yourself, it's not real. They're making it up, or they're probably mistaken, or they're just plain crazy. You suppose that it's something you just can't believe until something happens, something that brings it all together, connects all the dots in a way you didn't think of before. Or maybe it happens to you, or maybe you hear the same story again and again, but happening to different people. It doesn't take long for you to realize that the world is a lot bigger than you thought it was. As I said, this is a story my father told me, but I never believed it, even though he swore up and down that it was true. It wasn't until I started clicking around the internet, I started to believe. I started to hear other stories, just like the one my father told me. It didn't take me long to believe in it. That, sadly, my father never called it by the name, the rig. He's never used a computer in his life. He wouldn't know what the consensus of naming it would be. He would just call it or that thing. He sometimes called it a skinwalker, after an old Navajo tale his grandfather told him. But I want to tell you the story the way he told me. We were out one night. He said, coyotes. We'd kill them for $50 a skin. They live on a dairy farm in Ohio. They kill calves, and sometimes we do it every night because we needed the money. Sometimes while we were out there, we'd come out on a deer and kill it. Our landlord didn't mind, and it could feed our family for a few nights and save us some money. Anyway, we were making our rounds and heading home, walking because we didn't have a car or four-wheeler back then. We cut through the woods, and that's when we came up on it. Blood everywhere, on the trees, the grass, the creek, everywhere. At first we figured it was just a pack of coyotes. We'd seen it sometimes when they cat scavenge and start hunting deer or cattle, versus when they bred with feral dogs, but it wasn't anything like that. You see, when a pack of dogs or wolves or coyotes would, attack something, they'd do it right. They'd pick off one that's weak or sick or old or just small, They'd hunt it. They'd draw into a corner, some place it can't get out of. They'd run to the biggest one, the alpha. And that deer will never see that alpha. It might hear it, but it won't see it. It'll notice that its throat's gone, and then it'll just drop dead. It's quick. It's clean. That wasn't what happened here, though. Something had run up in the den of deer. Coyotes won't attack a den. Wolves neither, because they get too much of a fight. There were three bodies at least, just torn apart. You'd see a head here, a leg there, torso there. Predators don't do that. They don't leave behind scraps. What had done it, it wasn't doing it for food, it was just for fun. We didn't know that. We saw a bunch of carcasses and we think it's something we gotta take care of. I remember my dad telling me to go back home. He thought it was a pack of feral dogs, but I wasn't leaving him. And I damn sure wasn't going through 2 miles of woods alone with nothing but a .22 and a pocket knife. He was only 13 at the time, so a .22 was the only gun he could reliably use. Dad had the shotgun, and I wasn't going anywhere without it. It took a while to convince him, but we finally began to track whatever the hell it was. It wasn't hard, we just followed the blood after all. Either that thing bled a deer before it got away, or it just dragged one for a mile. I don't know, and I know that I'd never seen my dad scared before that night. We started hearing noises, and I've been in a lot of woods in my life. I've been all over the world, and I ain't ever heard anything like the noises I heard that night. I heard things screaming. I heard deer, fox, rabbit, raccoons, and birds just scared. Keep in mind that this is 12 or 1 o'clock. Except the fox and some birds. Nothing was supposed to be, awake. They weren't just awake, they were moving. I saw flocks of birds in the night fly straight into trees, just trying to get out of there. I mean, it's wild. We came up into a pack of coyotes and shot a couple, thinking that was what we were looking for. But when they saw they were running towards us, they ran right past and didn't even notice us. Some of the deer did the same, then some rabbits, squirrels, foxes, and a couple of wild hogs. These things were supposed to be eating each other, and the only thing they cared about was getting the hell out of there. We should have put it together. That whatever the hell we were tracking, it wasn't something we were supposed to see. It wasn't something we could kill. I don't know why we didn't just go home. I guess it was just curiosity. I think it's my dad's nature to go towards trouble to fight. And knowing what I knew about what my father did during the war, my nature was to stay close to him. We finally got into an open valley. It was normally a soy field, but it wasn't even, so it was just flat dirt. We saw the tracks, and a lot of the animals fleeing the forest had paved over the land. But where that deer blood was, nothing had taken a step, like they were leaving it for us to find. The tracks were shallow. Whatever it was couldn't have weighed more than 90 pounds. But that doesn't mean shit. A bobcat weighing only 40 fucking nearly tore my throat out. But that just means that it was fast and gonna be hard to hit. So we followed the tracks, and it didn't take us long. You see, there's this old school that sits on top of the hill. Half of it had been ripped apart by a tornado a while back, but nobody had lived there, not for quite a while. We used to catch homeless people, going there, sometimes druggies looking to find a safe place to shoot up. So we figured maybe that was it. Some sick kid riding a high. But we didn't think that for long. We got within 50 yards and we heard these noises, a kind of screeching sound, and it was kind of made up of two different sounds. One was a high-pitched screech, the other was a low-pitched growl. It was making both at the same time. We got within the 20 yards and we could hear the sound. I can remember thinking that it sounded like paper being torn apart while something was swigging water in a bucket back and forth. Dad looked at me, kneels down and whispers, "I gotta stay behind him because we're about to corner it. Any animal, will fight when it's cornered, especially when it's a predator. But we can tell that by the tracks, it's just one. My dad tells me it's probably a single feral dog. Maybe rabbit? The plan is basically to sneak up on it while it's eating and shoot it. And keep shooting till it don't move anymore. And slit its throat just to make sure. If it gets up, then it's my job to shoot it off my dad if it does." So he walks up, and I'm right behind him, you see. Just a little bit to the side so I can get a clear line and see what it is. But to this day, it's a sight I'll never forget. I wish I hadn't seen it. It was leaning over a carcass, tearing off its flesh, and throwing what it didn't want to nibble at aside. There's blood over the brick, glistening in the moonlight. It's pale white, human-looking thing, but it's not quite human. Its arms and legs are like a human's, but it sat like a monkey, hunched over. Its hands weren't normal. It had long fingers with claws at the end. So we see that, and my dad hesitates. He wasn't going to shoot at a regular person. So he clears his throat and tries to get it to turn around. Swear to God, all noise just ceased. I ain't never heard, true silence like that before, and not after. But for 2 seconds, nothing made any noise, which made it louder when it turned and made this shrill cry and jumped on Dad. He got a shot off. I think he missed, and if he did hit it, it shrugged it off like it was nothing. But it was on him, and parts were being torn off him. I started to shoot him with my .22, point blank. Barely did anything to the thing. I got off 5 rounds, and I started hitting it with the butt of the gun. But that damn thing wasn't budging. It didn't even register I was there. It clawed at my dad's throat, tearing bits of flesh. It started his torso, ripping off the skin. Then it moved up. It tore out his throat. It tore off his nose, his eyes, and it fucking scalped him. Then it started digging in and ripping off the bottom of his jaw and his little bones that two at your neck and then his ribs. I didn't exactly remember, but somehow my dad's knife ends up in the thing's shoulder. My dad ends up on my back. Now I'm running in. By God, I'm running. I'm running faster than I have ever ran before or after, and this thing's following me. I end up back in the woods opposite the ones we had been in. I'm heading towards my landlord's house because it's half a mile away. I can hear this damn thing screeching and moaning, and I hear tree branches cracking, getting thrown. It's like someone's taking an axe to every single tree I pass. And it's cracking so loud and so often, but I sure as fuck wasn't looking back. Finally, I trip into some gravel and I look up and there's my landlord and a bunch of his buddies. They were drinking around some campfire and I cry and scream and they're coming over. I'm telling them to call an ambulance and he looks at me. I'll never forget what he says. "What's that on your back?" he asked. Just as he said it, he saw one of those god-awful flannel shirts that my dad used to wear everywhere. It was what was left of my dad. Most of his head, his torso, but nothing after the waist. Suddenly we could hear it screeching. He grabs me. My dad gets thrown to the ground and I'm biting him and crying. I think we could still save him somehow, but my dad had been gone. Before I even picked him up, he was picking me up and threw me inside before I came with him. He and his buddies were on side and they're locking doors, getting guns, and landlords asked me, "What happened? What happened?" But I just didn't know what to tell him. He pieced enough of it together to understand that there was something dangerous out there. All the lights on the house were on and someone calls the cops and they'll be here in 15 minutes. We look outside and we see the damn thing walk in front of the fire they had made. Don't know what the hell it is. One of them says it looks kind of like an ape. Suddenly, something goes through the window. We shoot it, but it ain't the damn thing. It's my landlord's dog. Just the body. No head or legs. Just the torso. We start pushing things in front of the doors and windows when we hear something in the garage. I remember one of the friends saying that the doors were open. We hear metal and glass and just get ripped apart. We put the couch and a TV in front of the door of the garage. It banged around for some more and then got quiet. Not silent like it was before, but we could hear the thing move around. The guys were talking, making sure the guns were ready. Someone hands me a pistol. No sooner did I cock the hammer back, I could hear something shatter upstairs. And then we hear it screech again, except it was louder and it didn't echo and fade out. But it was inside. We all rushed to the door, the one leading upstairs. And we got to the thing and opened it just a bit. 4 or 5 men just slammed into it. And it got its hand through, but someone with a shotgun took care of that shit. Put a barrel right up to its wrist and pulled the trigger and blew its hand clean off. But that just pissed the damn thing off. It started pushing on the door, clawing. We were on one side pushing as best as we could, but it was on the other doing the same. The wood sure as hell wasn't even home, and someone tells me to keep our heads down. Top of the shelf, the door's just gone. My ears are ringing. There were splinters everywhere. 2 or 3 of them just unloaded on top of that damn door. I don't really know where it went after that, but the police got there and I was still glued to that door, or at least what was left of it. And the sun came up before they finally got me off it. They put me in the hospital for a while. A lot of people talked to me, but I never talked back. Not for a long time. When I got home, I got a job from the landlord, working on the farm. We didn't talk much about that thing. I signed up for the army when I was 19. And he sent me down to a drink of scotch as a send-off. I asked him right away, what did the police tell him? The story that they went was it was a wild animal, probably a wolf or a bear or something that migrated north. I asked them how could they have just said that they had the hand. He looked at me stunned. He tells me the hand never made it back to the station. The cop who had it in his car wrecked it and drove into a tree. Died on impact. The hand was never found, probably taken away by some animal, the cop said. Now, whether they actually did acknowledge that the head existed at all, they said it was just a paw of a bear that looked like a human hand. Never talked to the landlord again. He went missing after I was basic. The cops never found him either. They said that he owed some people money and he just ran away. But I don't think it's that simple. I never went back into those woods. I wouldn't go back even if I had the whole goddamn army on my back. But that was a lie. You see, when my mother died, I don't think my father felt he had anything left, and he might as well go and try to settle old scores. He went back to those woods. He never came back. The FBI was called. They did a show for everyone involved, but they weren't really looking. I had gotten one blind stinking drunk and slipped him a few 50s, but before he finally told me, he got a few calls about this place every year. About someone ending up and vanishing, but that was all he was going to tell me. Before he got up and left with the rest of his team, he wrote on a napkin, "The Rake." I didn't know what it meant until I searched it on the internet. Honestly, I'd rather maybe not have known. Some things are better not known. Well, if you guys like the story, please leave a like and comment down below. Share it around. Let everyone know that you enjoyed it. And it will really help if you guys subscribe. And if you really, really love the story, listen to it twice.